Oh, did I mess up here?
No, that's okay.
It was not centered. Okay. Good evening, my name is Madison, and tonight I'll be responding to the claim childhood obesity can be reduced significantly by American government laws and programs made by my peer, Christian. His supporting claims were, first, general laws that influence society's food environment are critical to preventing childhood obesity. Second, physical activity programs in schools and local communities are effective to preventing childhood obesity. And third, long-term, multiple component programs are designed to target a local community have been demonstrated to be effective for childhood obesity prevention. I will be refuting initially the legitimacy of the assumptions made and providing a counterclaim to his first supporting claim, as well as arguing the use of circular reasoning and ineffective examples in his second supporting claim, and lastly, the ambiguous language and lack of relevant evidence to back his third claim. As a precursor to my analysis of how my opponent's claims fail to correctly address the importance of childhood obesity, I'm going to clarify with a counter-argument that America has in fact already made a number of advances to reduce obesity, an important component Christian failed to address. The most impactful of these advancements is called Let's Move, started by Michelle Obama. The program has worked to 1, create a healthy start for children, 2, empower parents and caregivers, 3, provide healthy foods in schools, 4, improve access to healthy and affordable foods, and 5, increase physical activity. All very necessary components to reducing childhood obesity. For starters, his first claim against marketing and nutritional labeling falsely assumes that America has the ability to restrict marketing choices and labeling. Let us not forget our First Amendment and our constitutional right to freedom of speech. Marketing companies have the right to say whatever they want and do whatever they want. Deborah Platt-Mahora said it best in her address on solutions to childhood obesity by stating that action should be industry-initiated, not government-imposed. An example of such industry-initiated restrictions is Disney's decision to cut all unhealthy marketing during children programs. Likewise, the assumption that food labeling is a problem implies a false inadequacy of nutritional labeling in America, when in fact, according to Title 21 Code of Federal Regulations, there are 100 plus food and food labeling laws within the United States carried out by the FDA and other similar departments. In regards to the second supporting claim, my opponent creates a logical fallacy known as circular reasoning. Christian follows his secondary claim. Physical activity programs in schools and local communities are effective to preventing childhood obesity, with what he hopes to be backing by stating, of course, establishing programs that are promoting physical activity in schools and local communities will reduce childhood obesity. As is instantly noticeable, these two common statements are in fact mirror images of each other and fail to provide any particular reasoning or backing as to how the physical activities decrease childhood obesity, and instead slightly alter the first statement with a supporting statement. He goes on to add some evidence, however, the audience is still left confused due to the unique cases of Bottega Colombia's results. Finally, the third supporting fact discusses the use of multiple component programs to decrease obesity. The term multiple component programs is unclearly defined through a number of ambiguous examples and paraphrases. This demonstrates both a language fallacy through the use of ambiguous examples and shortened anecdotes, which create an unclear air revolving around the idea, as well as limit the credibility of my opponent, since he himself seems unclear as what the term means. The anecdotes that are provided are abrupt and poorly tied to how they could be applied in America. For example, my opponent talks of Beijing, China, enforcing a detention-like after-school physical program. I myself know Americans have a very different view on enforced government policies and would not take so well to the idea of enforced detentions. In conclusion, while we can all agree that the growing prevalence of childhood obesity needs to be a greater priority of America, my opponent could have better argued this through addressing existing programs the government already runs, valid reasoning in the relationship of supporting claims on obesity, and through less ambiguous and more pertinent examples. Thank you.
Well, structurally, things seem to be okay at the beginning. I think you give us a good set of ideas about how you're going to be responding to the argument, although your preview of all of the reasoning challenges that you're giving is going to be a little confusing. I think you want to wait and make those arguments as you get to the individual points. On the first point, you basically suggest that we're already addressing this issue. You give an example of the Let's Move program. There's not really much documentation about how effective it is and whether or not it's making a difference. I think it's pretty reasonable to suggest that there are a variety of programs that are designed to address this issue, and the argument here needs to be that mitigates the need for additional government action at this point if we are already taking these actions. The argument then is followed up by a claim that says we really shouldn't be having government restrictions on these things. It should be driven by market issues. I don't know that the freedom of speech issue applies very well here, but the notion that producers of foods have a variety of ways in which they might, not just producers of foods, but the advertisers have a variety of ways that they might mitigate these harms, and in fact, some of them are doing so is okay. You say you've got the example of Disney. I didn't get a source citation on that. I'm sure that it's a real example, but again, are there any other companies that are doing this sort of thing? Is there any demonstration that it is having the effect that the advocate is seeking in this particular situation? That would be helpful to make that argument a little bit better. On the second point, you basically argue that there's circular reasoning going on here, and I could understand based on the way the claim is presented why it appears to be circular reasoning. And then you kind of talk about some confusion over how the Bogota example applies here, and frankly I was confused too because I didn't remember it very clearly, and I'm not exactly sure why there's ambiguity in the language which undermines our ability to apply it here. The Beijing example, though, I do think you suggest that such a model is not really practical in the United States, and that's a challenge to the analogy, suggesting that there are substantial differences here between the U.S. and China that might undermine the effectiveness of such a program. And then at the end of the presentation, it sounds like you're doing more of an evaluation of the advocate's speech than a refutation of the speech. I think you want to be a little careful about that. All right, thank you.